Chapter 1081. Why hasn't that young man made a move yet? Is his strength really only at the foundation establishment stage? And that little beast, questions arose in his heart, especially when he saw the red-clothed young man's confidence. He had a bad feeling, and that feeling became even stronger when he saw the golden core cultivator get killed. At this moment, he retreated. Seeing the little beast blocking his way, he did not hesitate to use all the strength in his body to explode with the powerful aura of a golden core cultivator. He turned around and fled in another direction. He was not fighting, but fleeing. He used all the strength in his body to flee for his life. Fengjiu and Tunyun were stunned by his sudden turnaround and flee. They thought that he was going to fight, but who would have thought that he would turn around and flee? In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared without a trace. It could be said that at this moment, he was only using his golden core cultivation to flee for his life. Seeing this, she was stunned for a moment. She rubbed her chin and glanced in that direction, then ignored it. Forget it, let him flee. He's just a fish that slipped through the net. Therefore, she turned her gaze and looked in front of her. She raised her eyebrows slightly. After a battle, the last few loose cultivators had been killed by a few people. At this moment, Luo Fei and the others were sitting on the ground to rest after the last loose cultivator fell, panting. Ning Lang, on the other hand, was rummaging through the corpses excitedly. These guys must have robbed a lot of people. Look at these Chinkuan bags. There are a lot of things in them, and each person can't even take one. Ning Lang said excitedly as he searched. Not long after, he was holding more than 20 Chinkuan bags in his arms. Fengjiu walked over and glanced at the injuries on the others. She saw that they all had different degrees of injuries. Only Ning Lang only had a few small wounds on his arms. Seeing that he did not care about the injuries on his body and was still excitedly picking up the swords and sabers, she could not help but rub her forehead. Ning Lang, just take the valuable ones. Those sabers and swords are worthless. Don't pick them up. This guy really did not let go of anything. Did he not see how much those ordinary sabers and swords were worth? Don't want it. He was already holding several swords and sabers in his arms. After hearing Fengjiu's words, he thought for a moment and threw them back to the ground. All right, if you don't want them then don't. In any case, there will be more in the future. I'll just take these Chinkuan pouches, so that I won't have too many things in the future. Hearing his words, the corners of the others' mouths twitched, and they all shook their heads. Fengjiu looked around and said, the smell of blood is heavy here. We can't stay here for long. Let's go. Find a place to treat your wounds. All right. The few of them replied. They supported each other as they stood up and walked forward together. They had to leave this place first. When they reached a place where there was no smell of blood, they sat on the grass and began to treat their wounds. See? Is it because I'm smarter? I'm also wearing a lot of clothes. Moreover, I have a vest and a treasure robe. Although my strength is not as good as yours, I'm the one with the lightest injuries. Ha ha ha. Ning Lang smiled proudly. After bandaging his wounds, he took out the contents of the Chinkuan pouch and divided them into 5 portions. All right, one for each of us. Chapter 1082. They put everything away. As they rested, they took out food from the space to eat while talking about their next plans. Oh right, look at this. After swallowing the food in his mouth, Ning Lang took out a folded piece of paper from his bosom. I found this on the Golden Core Individual Cultivator. It looks like a map. I took a look at it earlier. It seems to be the map of this place. Hearing this, Fengjiu took it and opened it to look. The others came over and sat around them to look. They saw that there were some markings on it. Some places on the map were indeed the same as the ones they had walked through. It's the place inside. However, this map is not complete. It should have been drawn by some people who had walked through it. Look, we are now in a forest of trees. Look at the markings on this place. As long as we walk east, we can walk out of this area in less than a day. This place is highlighted. It's also a large area, more than 10 times the size of this forest. However, this place should not be finished yet. It takes up almost an entire map before it's finished. You can imagine how huge this Hell Mountain range is. With the strength of a golden core, how could he have walked through these places? In my opinion, this map should have been obtained by the itinerant cultivator from somewhere else. As Ning Lang spoke, he looked at Fengjiu and asked, "There are markings on it, and there are even drawings of ferocious beasts. It might be even more dangerous than where we are now. Are you afraid?" Fengjiu raised his eyebrows and looked at him. Hearing this, Ning Lang straightened his back. Afraid? How is that possible? I won't be afraid. Even if I can't beat him, I can still escape. You're so useless. Duan Yi snorted and glanced at him. Song Ming laughed when he heard this and joked, "I think you'll definitely be reluctant to leave after going in. The more dangerous it is, the more valuable things there are. Maybe you'll be able to pick a precious spiritual medicine or something. That's all money. Are you willing to leave?" "I don't believe it." "Ha, I'm not willing to." Ning Lang grinned and looked at Luo Fei again. He asked, "What were those things you threw out earlier? And those masks, were they made by you too?" In the past, they were used to prank people. In fact, they were only effective on Foundation establishment cultivators. They didn't have much effect on Golden Core cultivators. As Luo Fei spoke, he drank a mouthful of water to moisten his throat. Seeing Fengjiu staring at the map, he said, "Are there treasures on it? Why are you looking so serious?" "Treasures? Is there?" Ning Lang's eyes. Fengjiu rolled her eyes at them and said, "How could there be treasures here? I'm just looking around. There's an immortal cave marked here. I'm thinking of setting up an array formation and enchantment here after we reach this area. Then, I'll refine pills inside. You guys can also move around in this area. Familiarize yourself with this area and improve your strength. Raise his strength in this place." Song Ming and Duan Yi looked around and asked, "This should be the outer area. Shouldn't we go in further?" Fengjiu shook his head. "We can't go any further. We can only stay in this area. Look, there are marks on the map. This area is classified as an area, and the danger level is different from this side. With your Foundation establishment strength, you can only move around in this area." Chapter 1083. Hearing this, the four of them were stunned and cried out in surprise, "Enter the Golden Core realm in a year? How is that possible?" "That's right. It's not easy to advance after the Foundation establishment stage. Forget about those in the late Foundation establishment stage. It's already considered fast to enter the Golden Core stage in 10 years. You want us to enter the Golden Core stage in 1 year? How is it possible to cultivate at such a speed?" She glanced at them and said, "How do you know it's impossible without trying? However, before that, you should first stabilize your foundation." She put away the map and said, "Let's go while it's still early. We need to get out of this forest before it gets dark." "All right." They packed up and continued to walk towards the east. It was fine during the day, but at night, the tree spirits in the forest would come out to cause trouble again, so it was better to leave as soon as possible. With the map in hand and the fact that it was daytime, they didn't encounter any obstacles or dangers on the way. Therefore, they sped through the forest. In the evening, when the sky gradually darkened, they walked out of the forest of tree spirits. When they looked back, the trees seemed to come alive when night fell. Their branches stretched out in mid-air and emitted strange low howls. Phew! We're finally out. Ning Lang exhaled softly and said to them, let's find a place to sit for a while. We haven't rested much along the way, so we're a little tired from panting. Duan Yi looked around and pointed at a nearby place. There's a big rock over there, let's go there and rest for a while. All right. The few of them nodded and walked towards a large rock not far away. Fengzhou took out the map and looked at it, identifying the direction of the cave residence. As he looked, he saw Tun Yun sniffing at the rock Ning Lang and the others were sitting on from the corner of his eye, as if he was confirming something. He asked, Tun Yun, what's wrong? What do you mean what's wrong? What's wrong? Luo Fei asked and took out a fruit to eat as he said, this is the border between two forests, it's very peaceful. We just sat down to rest, don't be too nervous. Come here quickly, I still have fruit. Ah. Luo Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a rock, was eating a fruit and waving at Fengzhou. Before he could finish his sentence, he suddenly jumped up and cried out in surprise. Duan Yi and the others who were also sitting on the rock were leaning against the side. Therefore, when the rock suddenly moved, they quickly bounced away. Only Luo Fei was sitting on the rock with a dumbfounded look on his face. Roar! Devouring Cloud roared and flashed its sharp claws. It opened its mouth and was about to bite the rock when the rock suddenly rose with a whoosh, revealing a head and 4 legs. It was a beast with the same skin as a rock. How could it be a rock? At this moment, the stone beast seemed to be frightened. After standing up, it glanced at them and was frightened by the cloud-devouring beast. It actually broke into a run. On its back, Luo Fei, who had yet to react, was also sitting on its back as it fled into the forest. Ah! What's going on? What's going on? Everyone was stunned. In the blink of an eye, they saw Luo Fei being carried into the forest by the stone beast that they had never seen before. They heard his startled cries, which grew louder and quieter until they could no longer see him. Only then did they regain their senses. Chapter 1084. The few of them quickly dashed out. Fengzhou's Tun Yun was at the front, followed closely by Fengzhou, followed by Duan Yi, Ning Lang, and Song Ming. Who would have thought that the big rock was actually a beast? It was a beast that looked exactly the same as a big rock. Its hard skin and stone-colored hide were so realistic that no one would have thought that it was a beast instead of a rock. It could only be said that the Hell Mountain range was too strange. Even the beasts here were of a species that they had never seen before. Furthermore, they were adept at camouflage. They really could not relax for even a moment. On the other side, Luo Fei, who had been crouched down by the rock beast, was running wildly. Because he was running too quickly, he went from sitting to lying on his stomach. His legs were tightly clamped around the rock beast's body, and his hands were clasped tightly together. Due to the cover of the trees, the wind was so strong that he could not open his eyes. Hence, he could not see the path in front of him clearly. He could not find a good time to jump down. Until he lowered his head and adjusted the chi in his body to balance his body, he saw a fallen tree branch in front of him. Only then did he prepare to jump out and grab the tree branch to reduce the impact of the fall. After making up his mind, he propped himself up and half-squatted. When the distance between them was about right, he jumped with all his might, grabbed the branch, and spun around. He hung on the branch and swung down before falling onto the grass below. Hiss! He clenched his teeth in pain when he bumped into the wounds on his body. After a while, he sat up and saw Tun Yun, Fengzhou, and the others chasing after him. Before long, they were in front of him. How are you? Are you all right? Fengzhou went forward to help him up. Seeing that blood was seeping out of his bandaged wound, he helped him to sit down at the side. I'll help you take apart the bandages and apply medicine again. Hiss! Luo Fei took a deep breath and frowned as Fengzhou helped him to sit under a tree. He said, not only is this place dangerous, even the beasts are extremely strange. A roc is actually a rock beast in disguise. It's too scary. Hearing this, Fengjiu could not help but smile. That's why we have to be careful. This place is indeed very dangerous. As she spoke, she rebandaged his bleeding wound. At this moment, the few people behind them caught up. Phew! Luo Fei, are you all right? They came to his side and saw that Fengjiu was rebandaging his wound. They looked around. Where's the roc? Did it run away? It ran away. Luo Fei responded. He looked at them and then looked around. We actually came in like this. The sun is going down. The forest at night is not peaceful, especially in places where there are fierce beasts. We have to be even more careful. Don't worry, we'll keep watch. The few of them said as they stood guard in the surroundings. After Luo Fei, he said, let's make a fire. Lights this way, the light will be brighter. Even if there are ferocious beasts, we will be able to see them clearly. In this place, hiding is not the solution. Most of the time, we will still have to fight. The few of them looked at each other and nodded. Only one person was left to keep watch. Ning Lang and Song Ming went around to pick up some branches and came back. They lit a fire at the place where Luo Fei and Feng Jiu were sitting, illuminating the gradually darkening light. Chapter 1085. Feng Jiu smiled. Battles are inevitable in this place, and the best way to improve your strength is to fight. You can't avoid a battle. If you really encounter one, then fight. With your strength, as long as you work together, there shouldn't be any danger in this area. Hearing this, the few of them looked at each other and nodded in agreement. They didn't say anything else. The few of them rested by the fire. As the night deepened, the low howls of ferocious beasts could be heard faintly from their surroundings. Here in this pitch-black place, the howls of ferocious beasts made them not dare to relax and rest even if they wanted to. Rustle. Suddenly, the leaves in the forest rustled despite the absence of wind. When Song Ming and Ning Lang, who were on night watch, heard the sound, they couldn't help but look at each other. There seems to be something. I'll go take a look. As Song Ming spoke, he asked Ning Lang to stay and keep an eye on the surroundings while he walked towards the source of the sound. Behind them, by the fire, Tun Yun, who was lying next to Fengjiu, straightened his body to take a look, then lay back down. Fengjiu was still resting with his eyes closed, as if he was in a deep sleep and didn't notice anything. Ning Lang thought about it. Whatever Fengjiu asked them to do was the same. Moreover, he was in the same group as Song Ming. Since Song Ming was going to scout ahead, it was better for him to follow and take a look as well. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to find anyone to help him if something happened. Thus, after making up his mind, he quietly walked forward. Song Ming, who was walking towards the source of the rustling sound, quietly came to the darkness ahead. When he saw a pair of ghostly green eyes flickering with a ferocious light like the wisps in the night, he almost cried out in alarm. He covered his mouth with one hand and retreated step by step. He only felt his hair stand on end. If one were to count the pairs of green eyes in the front, there would be at least 20 of them. Furthermore, looking at their size, they were extraordinarily large. Ning Lang, who was following behind him, saw him bending over and retreating. He couldn't help but grin and step forward to pat him on the shoulder. Song Ming, what are you doing? Wow! Song Ming, who was originally covering his mouth, jumped up and instinctively cried out in surprise. This movement and cry of surprise naturally attracted the attention of those pairs of dark green eyes. In an instant, those 20 pairs of ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes looked towards where the two of them were. Damn it! What are you doing? He cursed angrily and turned around to glare at him. If he could fight, he really wanted to beat him up right now. I was worried that something had happened to you, so I came over to check on you. What happened to you? Ning Lang didn't understand. He didn't pat his shoulder too hard, and his voice wasn't loud either. Why did he look like he was frightened? Roar! Hearing the wolf howl behind him, Song Ming immediately pulled him and ran. What do you mean what happened? There are wolves. Giant wolf. Run! As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Lang, who hadn't reacted yet, was also dragged back. Chapter 1086. When the two people who were sleeping heard this, they quickly jumped up. They were no longer sleepy. When they saw Fingzhou sitting on the tree with Tun Yun in his arms and looking at them, they were startled. Then, a strange expression appeared on their faces. They asked, "You don't want us to practice again, do you?" He said that he brought them here to improve their strength through actual combat. Since there was an opportunity for actual combat, he naturally would not let it go. However, from the moment they entered until now, their journey had not been peaceful. It was not easy for them to rest for a while. Could it be that they still had to fight now? Fingzhou looked at the dark sky and said, "It's late at night. After this battle, the sun will probably rise. Since we've rested for a while, what's the harm in fighting again?" She looked ahead and said, "I looked. There are about 22 wolves in the pack. They are all 9th level beasts. As for the Wolf King, it hasn't come over. It's standing at a higher place and howling. With the strength of the 4 of you, you can fight it. Ah! The wolves are coming. Run!" As they spoke, Ning Lang's sharp voice rang out. In the blink of an eye, he dragged Song Ming to the front of the group. Seeing that they were still standing there in a daze, he hurriedly said, "What are you still standing there for? Run quickly. There are wolves behind them. There are more than 20 of them, and each of them is more than a meter tall. It's too scary. Run, run." As soon as he finished speaking, he planned to leave again. However, he saw Song Ming, who had shaken him off, gasp for breath. After glaring at him, he looked at Fingzhou on the tree and the two people beside the fire. He asked, "What are you talking about? Don't tell me you want to fight." "You guessed it." As Duan Yi and Luo Fei spoke, they felt that the wolves behind Song Ming and the others were approaching. One of them took out the 8-star flywheel, while the other took out a long sword. The spiritual energy in their bodies surged as they prepared to fight. Seeing this, Song Ming did not say much. He only gritted his teeth and said, "Let's fight." These beasts have large beast crystals on their foreheads. He took out a saber. It was a saber that was slightly shorter than a sword and longer than a dagger. It was 3 fingers wide. The sharp edge of the saber was suffused with a bloodthirsty cold light. As the spiritual power in his hand surged, a fierce air current whistled out. When Ning Lang saw that they were all in their stances, it seemed that they couldn't escape from this battle. Thus, he swallowed and said, "All right then. Let's fight then. For the sake of the beast crystal." He took out a dagger and held it in his hand as he stared nervously at the area behind him. Fingzhou looked at them from the tree and smiled. "Don't worry. If there's really a life-threatening danger, I'll save you." As long as their lives were not in danger, she would let them handle it themselves. Only in this way could they become more confident in the coming days. With his words, they no longer hesitated. Rather than being passive, they might as well take the initiative to attack. Therefore, when they saw the rank 9 giant wolf charging at them with its sharp claws, their spiritual auras surged and they instantly attacked. The swords in their hands were filled with murderous intent as they attacked the ferocious beast. "Awoo!" A wolf's howl rang out. The howl contained the pressure of a holy beast and echoed in the night. The wolves in the forest seemed to be responding to the wolf as they howled one by one. For a moment, the howls of the wolves were different in pitch. Chapter 1087. Unlike the level 9 wolves under the tree, the wolf at the top was a wolf king, a sacred beast. Its figure was even stronger than the level 9 wolves that Duan Yi and the others were fighting. Its fur was also different from the gray wolves below. It was a snow-white color, as bright as snow. Especially under the moonlight, it emitted a snow-white halo, extremely beautiful and dazzling. The level of a sacred beast was about the same. However, her contracted beast was the fire phoenix, her beast was the cloud-devouring beast, and her mount was Lao Bai. Hence, she still had the silly Dehe to guard the door. Hence, she really didn't need a contracted beast. However, her eyes flickered as she made up her mind. She didn't need it anymore. However, Duan Yi was the only one in Ning Lang's group who had a flame lion. The other 3 didn't have any contracted beasts either. Since she had brought them here to train, she could give them a chance. As for whether they could tame and contract this snow wolf, that would depend on themselves. Suddenly, sharp and cold claws grabbed at her from below. She looked back indifferently and glanced at the level 9 ferocious beast that was pouncing at her. A cold light flashed across her clear eyes at this moment, and the pressure of an ancient divine beast shot out from her eyes. Awoo! The level 9 ferocious wolf howled in horror and fell from the sky. Its throat was slashed by the 8 stars flywheel in Duan Yi's hand. Fresh blood splashed out, and the thick smell of blood and mournful howls spread out. The smell of the wolf's blood stimulated the other wolves, and they howled one after another. Their battle strength became even more ferocious. Hiss! Gasps and groans of pain could be heard from the mouths of the people below. They were already injured, and now they were even more injured. Under the siege of more than 20 level 9 ferocious wolves, their bodies were full of wounds caused by the sharp claws. Fengjiu looked at the corpses of the level 9 ferocious beasts on the ground. Seeing that they were becoming more and more familiar with the battle, he said, "There's a wolf king high up there. Other than Duan Yi, who among the 3 of you dares to tame it?" "What? Wolf king? If we're alone, how can we find the wolf king? If these are already so difficult to deal with, wouldn't the wolf king be even more powerful?" Ning Lang shouted. At this moment, he was crouching on the back of a level 9 ferocious wolf. His legs were clamped tightly around the wolf's body. He held a dagger in his hand and stabbed it viciously at the back of the wolf's neck. With a whoosh, the dagger pierced into the back of the wolf's neck. The wolf howled and fell forward on its knees. Its head hung down and its body twitched faintly. As Ning Lang pulled out the dagger, a column of blood splattered out. Ning Lang, who could not dodge in time, had his face splattered with blood. He spat twice and wiped his face with his hand. He felt a warm sensation on his face and couldn't help but feel disgusted. His face was covered in blood. How disgusting. I can't tame them now either. I'm about to collapse from dealing with them. Luo Fei said. His injuries weren't light to begin with, and when his wounds were torn open, he had to bandage them again. To be able to fight like this while being injured, fighting these rank 9 wolves was already his limit. If he recklessly challenged the Wolf King to tame it, then it was very likely that he would end up as a snack in the Wolf King's stomach. Chapter 1088. Hearing this, Fengjiu's gaze swept past the other 2, seeing that they were the same, he nodded, all right then. Originally, he thought that one of them could take the opportunity to tame a sacred beast, but from the looks of it, they didn't have the intention and battle strength to do so. Although he could tame the Wolf King for them first, it was best to tame it himself as a contracted beast, otherwise, the contracted beast wouldn't only submit to him. Awoo! The Wolf King howled from high up, the wolves below retreated as quickly as they came. As the wolf pack dispersed, the few of them heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at the corpses of the wolves on the ground, they didn't say anything for a long time. After only killing a few wolves, their physical strength couldn't keep up. The new injuries and old injuries caused them to grit their teeth in pain. If the wolves hadn't retreated, they probably wouldn't have been able to hold on. Seeing the few of them holding onto the tree and panting, Fengzhou's gaze flickered. This kind of physical strength wasn't enough. Although the old injuries on their bodies hadn't healed, those injuries weren't too serious, and they were already like this after being surrounded by the wolves for a short while. It seemed that before that, they still had to increase their physical strength. Ning Lang dug out a few beast crystals and gave them to Fengzhou, who jumped down from the tree. These are the beast crystals of those wolves. Fengzhou took a look at them and said, "These are wind attribute beast crystals. They can help wind attribute cultivators cultivate. Those of you with the wind attribute can distribute them." As he spoke, he passed them to Ning Lang and said, "Let's go. Let's find the cave abode on the map." The few of them saw that he was walking in front and didn't ask about their injuries. They couldn't help but look at each other and follow behind him. In their hearts, they were thinking, why does he seem to be unhappy? Could it be that he wasn't satisfied with their performance? The few of them didn't stop walking behind him, perhaps because Tun Yun, who walked in front, released the pressure of a divine beast. Some ferocious beast sensed the pressure of a divine beast and quickly avoided it along the way. Thus, the few of them didn't encounter any danger along the way, until the sky gradually brightened. Fengzhou, who was walking in front, took out the map and looked at it, walked forward for a while, then turned around to look at the few of them behind him. The cave on the map is a cave abode under the mountain in front. It takes about 2 hours to get there from here. Let's speed up. All right. The few of them didn't dare to say more. Perhaps they realized that Fengzhou's disappointed that no one went to tame the Wolf King last night, so they did whatever he said along the way. Around 7 o'clock, the group arrived at the foot of the mountain. Sure enough, they saw a cave that was entwined by vines, almost to the point where they couldn't see the entrance. "It's here." Fengzhou stepped forward to take a look. She raised her hand, and a wind blade slashed out. The vines that were covering the entrance of the cave were cut off, revealing the original cave entrance. She walked in to take a look. It was just a cave. The only difference was that it seemed to have been inhabited before. Other than a stone bed, there was a stone table. The place wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. She walked out and said to the few of them, "Rest here for a while. Treat your injuries, don't run around, just wait here for me to come back." As she spoke, she left Tun Yun behind and walked out by herself. Chapter 1089. "I'm going to take a walk around. You guys rest." As she spoke, she walked out without looking back. When they saw the red figure walk into the forest, they looked around and sat down at the entrance of the cave. Ning Lang scratched his head and said, "Why do I feel like he's angry?" "I don't think he's angry. He's disappointed." Duanyi lowered his head and began to treat his wounds. When they heard this, they fell silent. For a moment, they did not know what to say. They could only bandage their wounds and sit at the entrance of the cave to wait for Fengzhou to return. However, they waited until noon and there was still no sign of him. Could something have happened to him? Why haven't we seen him since we left in the morning? Yeah. Didn't he say that he was going to take a walk? It's been half a day. Should we go and look for him? He told us not to run around. If we don't see him when we go out to look for him, he'll probably be really angry when he returns. The four of them spoke one after another. In the end, their gazes simultaneously landed on Tun Yun, who was lying in the cave. After a pause, Song Ming shouted, "Tun Yun, will your master be all right? Do you want to go out and take a look?" Tun Yun glanced at the few of them and closed his eyes, ignoring them. When they saw that they were ignored, the four of them could not help but look away in embarrassment. They sat at the entrance of the cave and took out food to eat as they waited for Fengzhou to return. "He's the strongest among us. He should be fine. Furthermore, if he was in danger, Tun Yun would not stay here." When they heard Duan Ye's words, they nodded in agreement. After another 2 hours, they finally saw the familiar red figure walking over from nearby. When they saw this, they smiled happily. "Look, Fengjiu is back." They went up to him and asked, "Where have you been? Why were you gone for so long? We were all worried that something had happened to you." Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at them, then said, "I've walked around this area, and finally set up an isolation barrier and formation 200 meters away from here. From now on, with this cave as the center, there will be barriers and formations 200 meters away from here. During this period of time, if I don't tell you to go out, don't go out." With that, she walked into the cave and said, "Come in. Let me tell you what you need to do next, as well as the barrier and array formation around here." Hearing this, the few of them were secretly shocked. There were barriers and formations in this area. How much spiritual energy would that consume? However, he didn't look any different from when he had gone out. If he hadn't said anything, they wouldn't have known that he had gone out to do this. However, what were they going to do next? What was it? With doubts in their hearts, they followed Fengjiu into the cave. When they saw him sit down at the stone table in the cave, they stood to the side and watched him. Fengjiu, who was sitting at the table, looked at them and saw that they were calm, but their expressions revealed their nervousness. Seeing this, she couldn't help but curl her lips into a smile. "From tomorrow onwards, for a month, you'd better train your physical strength. Before that, you're not allowed to leave the barrier and formation here." Chapter 1090. Their physical strength was not bad, but they were probably not up to standard in his eyes, right? Forget it, it was better for him not to ask too much, lest he angered him. To be honest, when he was angry, he clearly didn't scold anyone, nor did he hit anyone, but his slightly darkened expression, slightly pursed lips, and that cold gaze made people's hearts tremble. It was truly frightening. Luo Fei glanced at Ning Lang, then smiled ingratiatingly at Fengjiu. He asked, "Then what about a month later? What are we going to do in a month?" "I'll tell you after you're done with your current tasks." She glanced at them and instructed, "Everyone, find a large rock that's no less than 50 kilograms and carry it behind your back. Every day, you'll squat and jump around the boundary. I'll let Tunyin keep an eye on you. If anyone slacks off." Her voice paused, and the corners of her lips curled up slightly. "I think it's best if you don't sneak up on me. Otherwise, my punishment will make you tremble in fear." Hearing this, a chill ran down their spines. They only felt that Fengjiu, who had started talking about training them, had changed completely after entering this place. Originally, he had chatted and laughed with them along the way as if they were friends. At this moment, he was showing the boldness and dignity of a teacher, letting them know that if they disobeyed his instructions, the punishment would definitely make them tremble in fear. Needless to say, just listening to him here was enough to make them feel uneasy. How could they dare to have any other ideas? Therefore, after he gave them some instructions, they were chased out. This was because only he could live in the cave abode. As for the others, they had to find a way to make do outside. "How about this? We'll build a wooden house here. It'll be more convenient for all of us to live together. Moreover, if we work together, it'll definitely be faster." Luo Fei suggested, his eyes full of eagerness and excitement. We won't be here for a day or two. I reckon we'll be here for at least a few months. It's better not to use a tent or anything. Let's work together and build a small wooden house here first. However, it has to be at least 50 meters away from Fengjiu." Hearing this, their gazes landed on Duan Yi. "Why do we have to be at least 50 meters away? Didn't he say it earlier? He wanted to refine medicine. Let's build a log cabin upwind. Let's go chop down some trees and find some grass to build the hut before it gets dark." "All right." The few of them responded and quickly divided up the work. They began to set up a wooden house at a location slightly above Fingzhou's Immortal's cave. After the few of them were exhausted, the simple wooden house was also completed. Looking at his work, although it was simple and ugly, at least it could be lived in, he was already very happy. "Let's go look for stones." Fingzhou said at least 25 caddies. "I took a look earlier and there's some over there." As Duanyi spoke, he pointed to a place not too far away. It happened to be at the foot of the mountain. He had taken a look earlier and saw that there were quite a few large rocks below that place. "Let's go." As they spoke, they walked over together. Each of them carried a large stone and placed it in front of the wooden house. Thinking that there were barriers and formations in this area, they felt at ease and rested inside the wooden house. Chapter 1091. When they came outside, they saw that Fingzhou was already waiting for them. So, they carried the stones and went forward. "Fingzhou, do you think the stones we brought back are okay?" Each of them carried a large stone in their arms, about 50 pounds. Fingzhou glanced at them and nodded, and, "Let's start. Carry the stones behind your back, squat and jump around this area for half a month, then run around this area for half a month." As soon as her voice fell, she looked at Tun Yun. "Keep an eye on them. If they don't do it, or if they are lazy, just bite them. Don't kill them. If they are injured, you can treat them." "Ao." Tun Yun responded, squatting on the grass and staring at them with a grin. When they heard his words, except for Luo Fei who did not know that Tun Yun was a divine beast, the others felt their scalps go numb. In the following month, Fingzhou handed them over to Tun Yun to keep an eye on, while he set up an enchantment outside the cave and began to refine pills inside. From this day onwards, the few of them could hear the rumbling sounds coming from the cave, and sometimes, lightning would strike down from the sky. At first, Luo Fei did not know that Fingzhou was the ghost doctor, but after asking Duanyi and the others, he found out that he was the ghost doctor. Although he was a spy in the academy, and someone had reported to him, he only knew that Fingzhou came from a 6-star academy, but he did not know that he had such an amazing identity. No wonder Duanyi and the others followed him so easily. Following the ghost doctor for a year, this was a good thing that others could not ask for. They squatted and jumped around with the stones for half a month, and at first, they could not hold on for more than 2 hours before they ran out of strength, and found it difficult to breathe. But Tun Yun really did not give them any face, and when he heard Fingzhou's words, he really showed his sharp teeth to them, scaring them so much that they could only grit their teeth and continue to hold on. Until half a month later, their physical strength gradually improved. Even if they were to carry the 25-kilogram stone and squat and jump around for the entire morning, they would not rest even once. However, because half a month was up, they began to run. They still carried the stone and ran. This run took them another half a month. Inside, they seemed to be isolated from the outside world. Perhaps it was due to the effect of Fingzhou's boundary and formation, but the people outside, as well as the fierce beasts outside, had never entered this place. It was so peaceful that they even forgot that they were in the Hell Mountain range. When the 1-month deadline was up, Fingzhou, who had not come out of the cave for a month, finally came out. She was still wearing that dazzling red robe, clean as before, without any damage, and also without any mess. People who saw her couldn't help but wonder if she had really been refining pills in the cave all this time. Looking at her appearance, it was as if she had rested in the cave for a whole month, without the slightest bit of haggard or fatigue. She still had the same appearance as before, and her clear eyes contained a fierce look. Although they were curious in their hearts, they did not dare to ask him. God knows, they were shocked by the imposing aura of a teacher that he had brought out, and instinctively felt a trace of fear in their hearts. How could they dare to ask him about his matters? Seeing Fingzhou come out, Tun Yun happily came to her side and squatted down. Her appearance was very obedient, without even the slightest bit of the ferocious look that she had when she was chasing after them. Chapter 1092. A month's time is up. From your bodies, I can see that your training has been effective. Their bodies had obviously become stronger. The 16 or 17-year-old youths seemed to have grown half a head taller after a month. She was very satisfied. Fengzhou, what do we do next? Luo Fei asked with a smile. Hearing Luo Fei's question, the others waited for him to continue. A month ago, he said that he would talk about what happened a month later. Then, today was the time. From tomorrow onwards, for 10 days, you will go out of the barrier into the forest to train. You will kill beasts and dig for beast crystals. The amount of beast crystals in 10 days cannot be less than 100. Also, you will count every 10 days. The person with the least amount of beast crystals will be severely punished. In addition, everyone will have to give half of their beast crystals to me. As for the person with the least amount of beast crystals, he will have to give the remaining one to the person with the most as a reward. Hearing his words, the others opened their mouths but didn't say anything. They looked at each other and gritted their teeth. In the end, they could only nod their heads. We understand. Their hearts were already secretly nervous, especially Ning Lang. He who loved money like his life was already thinking about how to win out of the other three. Even if he didn't win, he might not be the one who fell behind. Otherwise, it would be too much of a loss. Fengzhou's gaze swept across the few of them and asked, "Do you have any objections? If you do, say it now. Don't mention it later." "No." The few of them shook their heads and said. Seeing this, Fengzhou then threw out 4 small bottles. This is medicine that can treat internal and external injuries. Take the pills orally to treat internal injuries. Crush it and sprinkle it on the wound to stop bleeding. Hearing this, the few of them's eyes lit up. They took the bottles and opened them to take a look. One had to know that a bottle of the ghost doctor's medicine was extremely expensive. Some of it couldn't even be bought with money. They didn't expect that she would bring them here to train, protect their safety and even give them pills. This really made them very surprised and pleasantly surprised. "Alright, don't bother me if there's nothing important. If you encounter any trouble or danger that you can't handle, you can ask me for help." She tossed a few jade tubes to them. "Just stay in this area, don't go too far." "Got it." They answered happily and carefully put away the things he gave them. After giving his instructions, Fengzhou did not return to the Immortal's cave. Instead, he walked out of the barrier. When they saw this, they looked at each other and hurriedly asked, "Are you going out?" "Yes, I'm going out to do some exercise and look for some spiritual herbs," she said without turning her head. Hearing this, the few people behind him hurriedly followed up, "We'll go with you." "What kind of spirit herbs are you looking for? We can still help." "No need, just take care of yourselves." She waved her hand and walked outside. Not long after, she disappeared from their sight. When Fengzhou's figure was out of sight, they paused for a moment before Ning Lang asked, "What should we do?" Were they going to train separately? Or in pairs? "Are you guys confident in splitting up?" Duan Yi looked at the 3 of them and asked. "We should be able to. If we encounter something that we can't handle, we'll just escape," Luo Fei said. He felt that it was better to split up. This way, everyone would get different beast crystals. Chapter 1093. Ning Lang also nodded. "I also think that it's better to be in a group of 2. This way, we can take care of each other. Moreover, if we kill our own people, there won't be any conflicts in the beast crystals we get. On the contrary, if we really encounter any danger that we can't handle, the 2 of us can take care of each other." Duan Yi nodded. "That's good too. Then let's go with the group that Fengzhou originally arranged for us. Luo Fei and I will be in a group, and the 2 of you will be in a group." Luo Fei shrugged his shoulders. "All right. I don't care if it's 1 or 2 people. Since Fengzhou has gone out, let's not wait for tomorrow. Let's go." Ning Lang indicated that he planned to follow them out of the boundary and into the forest. Although they were only training their physical strength, at this moment, he really wanted to test his own fighting strength. Alright, let's go. The few of them left as soon as they said they would, and they really went out together. Seeing this, Tunyun thought for a while and followed behind them, taking on the responsibility of guarding them. After leaving the boundary, Fingzhou took out a map and looked at it. There was an area that was listed as a dangerous area. The danger level was several times higher than this place. It was indicated that it was a place where ferocious beasts often gathered. Other than that, there were also many precious spiritual herbs. Therefore, after keeping the map, she walked towards this area. With her strength, she was confident that she could come and go as she pleased. Walking towards that area, she walked for about 4 hours. As she walked, she saw poisonous snakes appear from time to time, and those poisonous snakes tried to stop her from moving forward. She couldn't help but feel surprised. Feeling that those snakes wanted to stop her from moving forward, she became more and more curious. Therefore, she walked all the way until she passed through a fog. Just as she walked through the fog, she heard a hissing sound. She couldn't help but raise her eyebrows. Her divine sense swept out and landed on a strangely shaped wild fruit tree not far in front of her. A trace of surprise appeared in her eyes. It was a fruit tree about 4 or 5 meters tall. What surprised her was that from afar, this fruit tree did not grow on the ground, but was placed in a vase. This was because the shape of the tree was that of a vase. Further up, the tree was in full bloom. Just looking at it like this, it was really very strange. Moreover, there were no wild fruit trees in this area. There was only one here, and it had a strange shape. There was a fog around this strange fruit tree, as if it was hiding the fruit tree. It was also because of the fog and the remoteness of this place that if she hadn't sensed the snakes trying to stop her from approaching and came over to take a look out of curiosity, she really wouldn't have discovered such a strange fruit tree. What surprised her even more was that under the fruit tree, there was a nest of colorful poisonous snakes coiled there. There were at least a few hundred poisonous snakes of different sizes. At this moment, some of them were sticking their heads out and hissing, and some of them had discovered her and were running towards her. Seeing this, her eyes were slightly surprised. She once again looked at the fruit tree that she had thought was a wild fruit tree. She saw that between the lush leaves she could faintly see a few fist-sized green fruits swaying between the branches. It was even more eye-catching. Chapter 1094. This is a spirit fruit. Her eyes lit up. No wonder there were so many poisonous snakes guarding this bottle of fruit, so it was a spirit fruit. But, what kind of spirit fruit was this? Why hadn't she seen it before? Her heart was filled with doubts. Just as she was about to step forward to take a look, she heard a hissing sound and several poisonous snakes scuttled out. She raised her hand and a wind blade shot out towards those 2 snakes. The sharp wind blade was as sharp as a knife. She originally thought that it would be the same as when she walked over, cutting the poisonous snakes into pieces. Who would have thought that when the wind blade landed on the bodies of the poisonous snakes, it actually made a clanging sound. The 2 snakes were only hit by the wind blade and fell to the ground. There was not a single wound on the bodies of the snakes, and they quickly scurried towards her again. Seeing this, she was slightly surprised and quickly retreated. She felt that it was very strange. How could her wind blade not kill those poisonous snakes? Moreover, it made a clanging sound that was similar to metal. As she retreated, she sized up those poisonous snakes. She saw that the ones that attacked her were only some small and medium snakes. Some of the larger snakes were coiled under the tree. Among them, there was a huge snake that seemed to be the king of this group of snakes. It was about as thick as a man's arm and its body was about 3 meters long. At this moment, it was coiled around the bottle tree. It stuck out its head and spat out its scarlet tongue to stare at her. Is this a threat? She raised her eyebrows and looked at the Snake King that was hissing and spitting out its tongue. It was using those vicious and bloodthirsty snake eyes to stare at her. She was thinking in her heart. These snakes should belong to the metal attribute and couldn't be killed by swords and knives. Then, what if it was the realgar that snakes were afraid of? Thinking of this, she took out a bottle of realgar from her space and unscrewed the cap before throwing it towards the group of snakes. However, when the realgar fell into the group of snakes, she couldn't help but blink her eyes. It actually didn't have any effect. Those snakes were still coiled there and didn't escape at all. It was as if they didn't feel the smell of the realgar. Seeing this, she touched her chin and her eyes slightly moved. Realgar was useless. How could it be useless? Normally, no matter what kind of poisonous snake it was, it wouldn't be able to withstand the smell of realgar. Realgar was the natural nemesis of snakes. However, the situation in front of her made her unable to think about it. Her gaze turned and landed on the bottle tree. Maybe, these poisonous snakes weren't afraid of swords and realgar. They were always coming out from this strange bottle tree. It seemed that she needed to find out what kind of spirit tree it was, so that these snakes were unwilling to leave. Realgar and swords and knives couldn't hurt these snakes, then. What about poison? With this thought in mind, she leaped into the air and went to a place far away from the bottle tree to set up a barrier to prevent the snakes from coming in. Then, she took out a pill furnace from her space and picked out some herbs to prepare. Only after she had mixed more than 20 herbs and spiritual medicines did she flip her palm and ignite the pill furnace. Flames sprang up from the bottom of the pill furnace with a whoosh. Only when the temperature in the furnace was about right did she add in the herbs she had prepared. About an hour later, the 20 or so herbs were mixed in the furnace. Traces of medicinal fragrance filled the air, and she couldn't help but think. Those snakes had become different because of those unknown spirit fruit trees. After her furnace of pills was formed, would they be able to achieve the effect she wanted? Chapter 1095. She thought that this furnace of pills would be ready in about 4 to 6 hours, but who knew that after the pills were melted, there would be rumbling sounds coming from the furnace from time to time. The temperature of the entire furnace continued to burn, causing the furnace to turn red. Fingzhou, who had never encountered such a situation before, felt her heart tighten. Is the furnace going to explode? Or is it going to refine this furnace? I only added a little more tripterigium vine than the snake fish grass and earth fire sparks. Why is it still like this? She muttered, her eyes filled with confusion. Looking at the red-hot furnace, she couldn't help but take a step back. In the past, when the furnace exploded, it would directly explode, but this time, the entire furnace had turned red and still hadn't exploded. What she was worried about was that this pill furnace was not the best one, because she thought that this pill was only a 5th level pill and below, any random pill furnace would be enough. Who would have thought that adding too many herbs would result in such a scene? If the furnace exploded, her herbs would really go to waste. But if she wanted to open the furnace now, she couldn't open it before the pill was condensed. She could only watch from the side and prevent it from exploding. This wait lasted until evening. When Fingzhou, who was inside the barrier, saw that the furnace was almost deformed and steam was gushing out, she couldn't help but take a step back. She muttered, did I really add too much earth fire sparks? Or did I add too much tripterigium vine? It's going to explode. As soon as her voice fell, she saw a surge of air. She was so shocked that she instantly rushed out of the enchantment and hid far away. The moment she escaped from the enchantment, the furnace of pills behind her exploded with a loud bang. Fuck! Fingzhou was dumbfounded. She looked at the furnace that had exploded with a loud bang and melted into scrap metal and scattered on the ground. A huge black mushroom cloud soared into the sky, then another one rose from below and bloomed. It stayed in the air for a long time before being blown away by the wind. She didn't notice that when the pill furnace exploded and the mushroom cloud surged, a pitch-black pill flew out with a whoosh and landed near the group of snakes. A small snake smelled the fragrance of the pill and actually slithered forward with hissing sounds, swallowing the pitch-black pill in one gulp. However, after the little snake swallowed the pill, its belly rolled and there seemed to be a stream of air moving inside. Even the snake's body emitted a spirit power aura that carried the scent of the pill. This scene attracted the attention of the other venomous snakes. A snake with a width of 2 fingers and a length of 1 meter quickly rushed forward, opened its mouth, and swallowed the small snake whole. This scene repeated over and over again. The big snake swallowed the small snakes, and a few of them were fighting with each other as if it was some kind of delicacy. All the snakes in the snake nest rushed out and chased after the snake that swallowed the pill, trying to swallow it. Even the Snake King, who was coiled around the bottle spirit tree, raised its head and hissed. Its bloodthirsty and ferocious snake eyes were fixed on the group of snakes that were fighting over the bottle spirit tree. When Fengjiu withdrew her gaze from the mushroom cloud in the sky, she couldn't help but sigh. Does this mean I have to refine it again? Chapter 1096. What's going on? Why is it so chaotic? In the nest of snakes under the bottle spirit tree, other than the Snake King that was still tightly wrapped around the tree, the rest of the snakes had all rushed out and were entangled together a few meters away from the bottle spirit tree. Puzzled, she leaped a little closer. When she was a few meters away, she couldn't help but be startled when she smelled the medicinal fragrance in the air. Isn't this the smell of the snake grass? She was stunned as she stared at the snakes fighting over the fruit. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. Could it be that the pill has been formed? There's no mistake, this is the smell of the snake grass. Ha 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 ha. She suddenly laughed out loud as she happily watched the snakes fighting over the fruit. She watched as the small snake was swallowed by the big snake, and watched as the big snakes fought over the fruit, biting and entangling with each other. Fight, fight. It would be best if the big snake also came out to fight over the fruit. Then, as long as she could catch it off guard and get close to the bottle tree, she could instantly move the entire tree into the spatial spirit field and plant it there. Then, she could slowly study what kind of spirit fruit it was. She made up her mind. In order to lure the Snake King out, she hid under the cover of the darkening sky. She concealed her aura and merged with the tree. She watched the snake from the dark as it looked around. It stared at the place where she was standing before and observed its surroundings for a while. Then, it gradually loosened its grip and moved forward. It didn't move very quickly. Or rather, it was still worried about leaving the spirit tree. Therefore, even though its 3-meter-long snake body moved forward, its tail was still hooked to the tree trunk. However, the group of snakes walked further and further away as they fought. They had actually walked more than 5 meters away. If it wanted to fight, it would have to leave the big tree. Therefore, after the snake's head darted 2 to 3 meters away, it looked back and stared at the unripe fruit on the spirit tree. Its ferocious and bloodthirsty eyes scanned the surroundings again before it suddenly darted out. Its speed was extremely fast. With a swoosh, the snake's body suddenly shot out. The snake's mouth opened to the back of its head. The originally small snake's mouth was now large enough to swallow an adult rabbit. Just as it leaped out and stared at the big snake, it opened its mouth to bite the big snake's head and swallow it into its stomach. Fengjiu had already leaped out from behind the snake and arrived under the bottle spirit tree. There was not a single snake in the snake's nest under the tree. They had all rushed to fight for the pill. Therefore, she arrived under the tree without any hindrance. She placed her hand on the tree trunk as she watched the Snake King. The spiritual power in her body surged, and a wave of spiritual power condensed in her palm, forming a line with her divine sense. Along with her clear shout, "Withdraw!" The bottle spirit tree that was deep underground turned into a ray of light. It disappeared on the spot, on the tree, on the tree, on the spot. Hiss. The Snake King, who was in the middle of swallowing the big snake, suddenly turned around and saw that the bottle spirit tree had been taken by Fengzhou. In an instant, its bloodthirsty and ferocious snake eyes turned red and it hissed. Chapter 1097. Seeing this scene, Fengzhou quickly retreated and grinned. Once something is in my hands, no one can take it away from me, let alone a snake like you. As soon as he finished speaking, he had already retreated several meters away. Hiss. Bang. The Snake King was enraged. As it spat out its tongue, it shot out a stream of saliva from its mouth. The saliva shot several meters away and headed straight for Fengzhou. However, it was not faster than Fengzhou's speed and landed more than a meter behind her. Fuck. So poisonous. Fengzhou turned around to take a look. She saw that the saliva shot to the ground and directly melted a hole in the ground, making a sizzling sound. The saliva splashed onto the grass and trees, causing them to wither and lose all signs of life. She stared at it with wide eyes. Originally, she still had some intentions of teasing it. However, after seeing this, she was in trouble. The Snake King itself was a sacred beast. Although it could not speak, it had already developed spiritual intelligence. Now that it saw that she had taken the spiritual fruit tree, it would definitely chase after her. Chasing after it was one thing. With her speed, she was confident that the snake would not be able to catch up to her. The problem was that the venom it spat out could shoot several meters away. Moreover, it was extremely poisonous. If she was not careful, she would be in trouble. However, she was puzzled. She turned around to take a look. The Snake King had swallowed the big snake that ate her pill, but it did not explode and die. One had to know that she had added quite a bit of poison into that pill. There was also Tripterygium vine, earth fire flower, and snake-smelling grass. Although those things had a fatal temptation that snakes could not resist, they were still not good things. But why did the snake not feel any discomfort after eating it? Instead, it looked like it had become thicker. She was sure that she did not see wrongly. The snake was originally as thick as a man's arm. However, looking at it now, the snake's body had at least doubled in size. Moreover, the layer of snake skin on the snake's body seemed to be faintly changing color. What was the reason for this? Even if her poison pill had been neutralized by them using poison to fight poison, it should not have not hurt them at all. Instead, it should have become stronger, right? Bang! She watched as the snake's tail slammed heavily on the ground, causing a crack to appear on the ground. The trees in the forest that were blocking its path all fell to the side as the Snake King swung its tail. That destructive energy caused her to involuntarily increase her speed and rush forward, giving chase to the Snake King behind her. What made Fengzhou's scalp numb was that in this forest, the Snake King's hissing. Everywhere it passed, some of the poisonous snakes in the forest and joined the group. They actually followed behind the Snake King, forming a snake army that chased after Fengzhou in front. Seeing the large group of colorful poisonous snakes behind her, she sucked in a breath of cold air. Hiss. If I. The red figure flashed and increased her speed again. Her figure swept through the forest like a ghost, gradually pulling away from the snake army behind her. As the sky gradually darkened, the forest faintly emitted heavy banging sounds, as well as the hissing of the poisonous snakes. The noise was so loud that some of the ferocious beasts in the forest could not help but quickly avoid it. Chapter 1098. The next morning. Somewhere in this area, a group of rogue cultivators was resting in the forest. This group of people was the one who had a grudge with Fengzhou's group when they were crossing the cliff. Although they had been tricked by Fengzhou, fortunately, it was not fatal. Fengzhou had only taught them a lesson at that time, and also made them do some tricks because they could not catch up with them. These people came later. Ever since they came here, they had been looking for traces of Fengzhou's group. They wanted to kill them to vent their anger. However, they had been here for almost a month, but they still had not seen Fingzhou's group. Boss, maybe those brats have been killed in here long ago, or they were dragged away by fierce beasts. They can't be alive now. Otherwise, it would be impossible for us to not see them after coming here for almost a month. Those brats are quite capable. They can't die so quickly. Moreover, if they were killed, we can't kill them personally to vent our anger. Therefore, I still hope that they are still alive. This way, when they fall into our hands, they will suffer a fate worse than death. Two burly men sat under a tree and talked. One of them had a gloomy face. When he talked about Fingzhou's group, his whole body was full of gloomy murderous intent. They had been traveling for so long. It was one thing to fall into the hands of others, but to fall into the hands of those brats, just thinking about it made them want to vent their anger. They can't have gone far. They should be in this area. I don't believe that we can't find them in this area after almost a month. His gaze was gloomy as he clenched his fists tightly. As long as they fall into my hands, I will let them know that death is an extravagant hope. Boss, don't worry. I will ask my brothers to keep an eye out. As the burly man spoke, his expression suddenly changed. The Peak Golden Elixir Realm cultivators saw that his expression was not right and asked, "What's wrong?" The burly man did not speak. Instead, he bent over on the ground and listened carefully. Not long after, he stood up and said, "Boss, something is wrong. It seems like something is coming this way. It is still a little far from here. From the sound, it is estimated to be 1,000 meters away, but it is moving very fast. Coming this way. What is it?" "Ferocious beasts?" the Peak Golden Core cultivator asked. "It's the sound of running footsteps and the sound of heavy collisions. It's still too far away, so I can only hear this. I can't tell what's making the sound of collisions," the big man said with a serious face. He asked, "Boss, should we hide?" The rogue cultivator at the peak of the Gold Core realm nodded after hearing this. "Since you can't tell what it is, then let's avoid it for the time being. Tell the brothers to avoid it first." "Yes," the burly man responded and shouted. He quickly retreated to the other side with his men. However, the rogue cultivator at the peak of the Gold Core stage didn't retreat too far. Instead, he asked everyone to retreat and hide well, waiting to see who exactly was coming. Or a ferocious beast. Thus, when they retracted their auras and hid to the side, they waited for a while. When they saw the red figure approaching from afar, the Peak Golden Core cultivator in the lead was startled and somewhat astonished. Why does that figure look so familiar? Chapter 1099. Seeing the red figure gradually approaching, the Peak Stage Golden Core rogue cultivator's eyes turned gloomy. He suddenly raised his head and laughed out loud, "Ha ha 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 ha. It's really effortless. As expected, that red-robed brat has delivered himself to our doorstep." Hearing his words, the cultivators behind rushed out and blocked the front, trying to block Fingzhou who was flying towards them. Fingzhou had been running since last night and the snakes behind her had been following her. If she hadn't had medicine to replenish her strength, she probably wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. Hence, when she saw the rogue cultivators in front of her, she couldn't help but be stunned. They looked a little familiar. Were they the rogue cultivators she met at the cliff? When she remembered who these people were, she saw that they were holding swords in their hands and had a murderous look on their faces. She couldn't help but grin and waved at them happily. As she ran towards them, she shouted loudly, "It's you guys. Ha ha ha. You're really full of ape dung." The rogue cultivators were stunned. When they saw the red-robed youth running towards them with a grin on his face, they were puzzled. Could it be that he doesn't remember them anymore? Did he forget that they had a grudge against each other? Otherwise, why would he run towards them with a murderous look on his face when he saw them holding swords in their hands and running towards them excitedly? Bang! Suddenly, a loud bang came from behind, startling the rogue cultivators. Then, they heard a hissing sound. They were stunned and quickly looked behind the red-robed youth. When they saw what was behind him, their faces instantly turned pale. Damn it! What's that? A snake horde. What the hell is this damned brat doing? Why did he provoke so many snakes? Hiss! Run! The giant snake in front is a sacred beast-level beast. If we don't run, we'll become their snack. Damn it! That brat tricked us. He's trying to kill us. Those rogue cultivators sucked in cold breaths and cursed angrily. Then, they turned and ran away. How could they still bother to find trouble with Fingzhou? Even the leading rogue cultivator at the peak of the Gold Core realm turned pale with fright at this time. He glared at Fingzhou angrily and resentfully, gritted his teeth and shouted, "Boy! Don't come to us. Run further away. Get lost." However, Fingzhou grinned and ran in their direction, shouting, "Wait for me, don't run too fast, wait for me." The rogue cultivators looked back and saw the red-clothed young man waving his hand and grinning as he ran towards them. About 100 meters behind him, there was a large group of venomous snakes of various sizes and colors. There were at least 1,000 of them. The most frightening thing was the giant snake in front of them. Just looking at it gave them goosebumps, and they were terrified. Immediately, the rogue cultivators began to curse. "Damned brat! Don't follow us. Don't follow us, go further away. Don't follow us. The snake horde followed you here, don't attract the snake horde. Go away, go away." Chapter 1100. However, she quickly caught up from behind and ran into the group of rogue cultivators. She grinned at them. "I didn't expect to see you guys here. I'm so happy. You guys have to run faster. Otherwise, the snakes behind us will catch up. Damn it. Get lost." A rogue cultivator cursed angrily. He slashed his sword at Fingzhou with murderous intent. Fingzhou's eyes flashed. She smiled and said, "Don't use your sword." "I don't like to use my sword. However, since you want to practice, I can help you." As soon as she finished speaking, she flicked her sleeve as she dodged. A wave of spiritual power visible to the naked eye surged out and pushed the rogue cultivator back more than 10 meters. "Ah!" The rogue cultivator cried out in alarm. Due to the force, he was pushed back more than 10 meters. In addition, he couldn't stabilize his steps and stopped at that moment instead of moving forward. Therefore, after he fell back for more than 10 meters, the group of snakes behind him had already surged forward. Hiss hiss hiss. The sound of a venomous snake hissing could be heard. The rogue cultivator was shocked. He looked back and screamed, "Aw! Save me! Save me!" Behind him, the group of snakes surged forward. They were less than 10 meters behind him. The Snake King opened its mouth and spat out a stream of venom. When the venom splashed on the ground, it made sizzling sounds and corroded the ground. Aw! It clearly didn't splash on the vagrant cultivator, but the vagrant cultivator was so frightened that he let out a shrill scream. His legs went weak, and he staggered. His footsteps slowed down, and he was swallowed by the Snake King behind him in one bite. Gotcha! The sound of bones breaking came from behind, accompanied by a scream. Everyone in front of them turned around in shock. When they saw what was happening, their faces turned pale. The upper half of the Middle Foundation establishment cultivator's body had already been swallowed by the Snake King. The snake's mouth opened and closed, and they could see the sharp, venomous fangs biting into the loose cultivator's body with a crunch, breaking the bones in his waist. The rogue cultivator who was still struggling couldn't move. He hung by the Snake King's mouth and was swallowed by it. The snake's body also bulged and shrank as it swallowed the rogue cultivator. Only when the bulge slid down to the snake's stomach did the Snake King return to normal. Its bloody and ferocious snake eyes stared at the rogue cultivators in front of it. It hissed and chased after them. Ah! Run! Run! The rogue cultivators at the front were shocked by the scene behind them. The aura of death suddenly enveloped them, making them feel frightened and even more shocked. At this moment, a few of the rogue cultivators who were originally running forward together couldn't bear the relentless pursuit of the snakes behind them. They screamed and gave up on running forward. Instead, they fled to the left and right, trying to escape this terrifying land of death. However, right at the moment when they flew out, they let out miserable screams. Chapter 11:01. Ah! Save me! Save me! Save! The cry for help did not last long before it went silent. That rogue cultivator was entangled by the snakes that surged up, as if he had fallen into a nest of thousands of venomous snakes. Very quickly, he was bitten until he was dripping with blood, and the flesh on his body was sucked dry. Fengzhou's eyes flashed slightly. These snakes were increasing in number. He did not expect that the Snake King could actually summon so many small snakes to suck its orders. From the initial few hundred snakes to over 1,000 snakes, and now there were nearly 10,000 snakes. This speed of increase was truly frightening. If this continued, then the disaster that would form would be extraordinary. At this moment, she could not help but rejoice. Ever since she was chased by these snakes, she had run into the depths of the mountain range, far away from where Duan Yi and the others were. Otherwise, if they were targeted by these snakes, they would probably be like those rogue cultivators, and not even their bones would be left behind. Damned red-clothed brat! What did you do to those snakes? Why did you let them chase you so relentlessly? At this moment, that golden core rogue cultivator did not have the time to attack Fengzhou, because once they fought, their speed would definitely slow down, and it was very likely that they would be in an extremely dangerous situation. It was also because of this that after seeing the snakes madly chasing them, they only ran for their lives and did not dare to rashly attack. The fate of the loose cultivator from before had already given them a reminder. That loose cultivator was at the middle stage of the foundation establishment stage, yet he was pushed out by this red-clothed youth with a flick of his sleeve. It was easy to imagine what would happen to them if they made a move. But now, even if they didn't make a move, their current situation wasn't too good. It was even more likely that they would be eaten by these snakes than the red-clothed youth. Looking at the red-clothed youth, who actually ran in front of them so easily and effortlessly, the anger in their hearts rose. They couldn't help but curse out loud again. Damned brat! You want to run away by yourself after attracting the snakes? No way! As soon as the voice fell, a golden core cultivator behind instantly attacked. He felt that the snakes were chasing the red-clothed brat, and if the red-clothed brat was caught by the snakes, perhaps these snakes would no longer madly chase them. Fengzhou dodged to the side and turned around with a grin. You guys should save some strength and wait to escape from the snake's mouth. I won't play with you anymore. As soon as her voice fell, her footsteps changed, and her speed increased again. She actually teleported forward, and it didn't take long for her to disappear without a trace. The rogue cultivators behind her were dumbfounded. No one thought that his speed could be increased again, and no one thought that he would disappear in a flash. Instead, they were placed in front of the group of snakes, being stared at by tens of thousands of pairs of snake eyes, becoming food for the snakes. Damn that red-clothed brat! Get back here! Come back! After recovering from their shock, they screamed in horror, and also tried to escape from the snake's mouth to avoid becoming food for those poisonous snakes. However, when the Snake King saw that the red-clothed human who had been chasing it was escaping from its sight at an extremely fast speed, a bloodthirsty killing intent and a strong sense of unwillingness shot out from its eyes, and it madly chased after him again. Therefore, it quickly overtook the rogue cultivators in front of it, but it did not devour them. Instead, with a swing of its snake tail, it directly swept the rogue cultivators into the group of snakes behind it, and they were eaten by its descendants. Chapter 1102. That group of rogue cultivators, in their terror, were buried in the belly of the snakes, not even leaving behind a corpse. The Snake King's flying speed increased again. Very quickly, it left the group of snakes behind and chased after Fengjiu alone. However, no matter how fast it was, once Fengjiu left it behind, it would not be so easy to find her again. Therefore, after chasing for a distance and not being able to find that red figure, it used its tail to madly slap the ground to vent its anger. At this time, Fengjiu, who had left the Snake King behind, was sitting at the mouth of a spring in the forest. After washing her face, she scooped up some spring water and drank it. The spring water in the forest came from the ground. It was sweet and cold, and could quench her thirst. After resting for a while, she took out a water bag from the space and filled it with water. Then, she used her divine sense to scan the surroundings. After confirming that there was no one around, she flashed into the space. Master! As soon as she entered the space, Lao Bai ran over. Seeing Lao Bai, who had obviously gained a lot of weight, the corner of Fengjiu's mouth twitched. She patted Lao Bai, who was in front of her, and looked him up and down. Then, she said, "What did you eat in here? How did you gain weight again?" "Master, it's because the spiritual energy here is dense. I have nothing to do, so I just wandered around here all day. Naturally, I gained weight," Lao Bai said, intimately rubbing against her neck. "Master, why didn't you come in to see me for so long? It wasn't convenient for me to come in." She stroked the horse's hair and said, "You didn't touch the fruit tree I moved in, right? I went to take a look. The fruit wasn't ripe, so I didn't eat it," Lao Bai hurriedly said. Hearing this, Fengjiu was speechless. It wasn't that he didn't want to eat it, but because the fruit wasn't ripe, he couldn't eat it. "I'll say it first. I didn't allow you to eat the things inside. You can't eat them or else I'll get angry." In addition to some precious spirit herbs, there were also some of her collection. Even though she knew that this bottle spirit fruit tree was a spirit fruit, she still didn't know what kind of spirit fruit it was. However, something that could make the Snake King chase her for a day and a night without letting her go was definitely not an ordinary spirit fruit tree. "Master, don't worry. I won't steal it." Lao Bai grinned, but his words lacked confidence. However, he had been by Fengjiu's side for a long time, so he naturally knew that she would do as she said. Therefore, with her warning, he did not dare to act recklessly here. Fengjiu glanced at it and went to the bottle tree. When he saw the fruits hanging on the tree, he was surprised. Only 5 fruits. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and gathered his chi to sit on the branch. Looking at the fruits hanging between the branches and under the leaves, his eyes flashed. The fruit was the size of a fist and was still green. The shape of the fruit was like a fortune bag, but it was also somewhat similar to a pomegranate. The only difference was that the fruit was divided into 8 pieces by the stripes on the fruit's body. The fruit also emitted a faint spiritual aura, as well as a fragrance. "That's strange. It looks like a pomegranate, but it's not a pomegranate. According to the spirit fruits I've seen so far, I don't think there's a spirit fruit like this." She muttered softly and was puzzled. She guessed what kind of spirit fruit this bottle tree bore. Chapter 1103. She came down from the tree and walked to the spiritual spring to water the tree. She told Lao Bai to keep an eye on it and then went to the fire phoenix. Seeing that it was still inside, she couldn't help but feel strange. Why is it taking so long this time? Is it about to break through and become an adult? Thinking of this possibility and seeing that the sleeping fire phoenix didn't have any abnormalities, she flashed out of the space. Sitting by the spring, she stretched out her hand and played with the spring water beside her. Her slender white fingers gently brushed across the surface of the water, watching the ripples spread out and then return to normal. After playing for a while, she composed herself and got up to walk into the forest. She had been chased by the Snake King since yesterday and hadn't been able to find the spiritual herbs properly. It had really wasted a lot of time and she had run so far away. She was currently researching an elixir and lacked 2 ingredients. She planned to see if there were any in the forest before returning to the cave to refine them. This time, she didn't plan to train herself in the Hell Mountain range. Her purpose here was to bring the few of them to train. After a year, she would go to a first-class country. The golden lantern grass mostly grows in dangerous places, mostly between the mountain walls. However, the bamboo orchid prefers damp places. I should be able to find it in this forest, she muttered as she walked. In this area, there were no venomous snakes chasing after her, no rogue cultivators trying to kill her, and no ferocious beasts appearing. Therefore, she slowed down her pace and carefully searched for the bamboo orchid in the surrounding area. She didn't take care of her space much. Most of the spiritual herbs she planted were precious and rare. She didn't plant some of the less rare ones. First, she thought that if she needed them, it would be convenient to buy them. Second, she couldn't take care of so many spiritual herbs in her space. She could just plant some rare ones. If she lacked other herbs, she could get them through other methods. However, in this way, she had to spend time looking for 1 or 2 spiritual herbs. Fortunately, these 2 spiritual herbs weren't difficult to find. After walking in the forest for about 2 hours, she found the bamboo orchid in the weeds under a damp tree. The bamboo orchid was like a wildflower in the forest. It had 3 small purple flowers, and its stem was like a bamboo, with a few leaves hanging down. It was not very eye-catching in the weeds. If it was someone who didn't know what it was, they would think that it was a wild flower. However, those who were proficient in medicine would be able to tell at a glance that it was a bamboo orchid. There were several types of pills that could be used in medicine, and its effects were miraculous. A good spirit herb must be whole, because it had to be picked very carefully. Especially for this kind of bamboo orchid, its roots were relatively thin and deep in the soil. If the roots were accidentally broken, the medicinal strength would be reduced, and the medicinal efficacy would be greatly reduced. Therefore, after discovering this bamboo orchid, Fengjiu squatted under the tree and slowly dug. Bit by bit, he pushed away the soil and carefully exposed every single root. After the time it took for a stick of incense to burn, she dug out the bamboo orchid. She held it in her hand and looked at it. She was very satisfied. Not bad. This bamboo orchid is almost 100 years old. I think it will be very effective when used in medicine. Chapter 1104. Leave that bamboo orchid for me. The sudden voice startled Fengjiu. He raised his head and looked in the direction of the voice. He saw a middle-aged man in his 30s. He was thin and had a gloomy aura. Behind him were 3 cultivators at the peak of the golden elixir realm and 1 at the beginning stage of the nascent soul realm. Fengjiu had already put away the box. Those people thought he was just putting it into his chinquan bag and didn't think much of it. But at this moment, they were eyeing the bamboo orchid. I picked it. If you want it, can't you find it yourselves? She raised her eyebrows. The bamboo orchid wasn't something that couldn't be found. Why would they want it from her? Just hand it over. The golden elixir realm cultivator behind him shouted and glared at Fengjiu. Fengjiu curled his lips and glanced at the golden elixir realm cultivator. Give me the chinquan bag at your waist and I'll consider giving you the bamboo orchid. They wanted to take something from her for free. Was there such a good deal? You're courting death. They started fighting without saying anything. The Golden Elixir Realm Cultivator shouted. He wanted to test Fengzhou's strength. After all, they didn't think that anyone who could enter this place was a pushover. However, what they didn't expect was that just as the Golden Core Cultivator was about to make his move, the red-clothed youth, who previously had a fearless expression on his face, actually cried out in panic. "Ah! Murder! Robbery!" The young man broke into a run, but he was actually running towards them. Somehow, he brushed past them, and they didn't even have time to stop him. They saw him run 100 meters away. Damn it! He stole our Qianquan bags. The nascent soul realm cultivator cursed and was the first to turn and chase after Fengzhou. The few people behind him also looked down after being reminded by the nascent soul realm cultivator. Their faces darkened. The Qianquan bags at their waists were gone. Their waists were empty. Thinking of the treasures in their bags, they gritted their teeth and quickly chased after the red-robed youth. Originally, he had planned to rob the bamboo orchid that the red-clothed youth had picked. After all, such robberies were very common here. There were no moral constraints here, only the strong and the weak. Strong people could rob things from others, and even kill people. For this point, it had already become a tacit agreement. Even some aristocratic families would form teams to travel in this place. Firstly, it was to prevent being targeted. Secondly, it was to ensure that they had the strength to compete for any good items that they found. But they didn't expect that the red-robed youth, whom they were eyeing, would dare to steal their Qianquan bags in front of them. When they thought about how their Qianquan bags had been snatched away by a red-clothed brat who was not even 20 years old, their desire to kill grew even stronger. That brat better not let them catch him. Feng 9, who had run away after getting their Qianquan bags, was now smiling with narrowed eyes. She didn't check what was in the Qianquan bags and just ran away to let the people behind her chase her. "You want to steal my things? Then I'll steal theirs first. Let's see if they still dare to have any ideas about me." "Stop. Brat, stop right there." Chapter 1105. Fengzhou moved forward with ease. Her footsteps changed in a strange way. She moved in an instant and effortlessly distanced herself from the people behind her. When she heard the angry shouts coming from behind, she looked back and smiled. "Didn't you want to steal my spiritual herbs? Stop me if you can." Hearing this, the people behind her almost vomited blood in anger. It was true that they wanted to steal his spiritual herbs, but who would have thought that he would steal them in the end? This young man was running and shouting that he was going to steal their things. He was clearly the one who stole their Qianquan bag, but he made it seem like they were the ones who stole it from him. How infuriating! What angered them the most was that they didn't know what footwork this young man had learnt, but he was so fast that they couldn't catch up. At this moment, they didn't think of another possibility, which was that this young man's strength was unfathomable. On the contrary, all they could think of was, who didn't have one or two life-saving skills or treasures? Otherwise, who would dare to enter the Hell Mountain range so easily? "Stop. Stop right there. Leave the things behind and I promise I won't beat you to death." Hearing this, Fengzhou was amused. She turned around and laughed, shouting at them, "Only idiots would stop. You'd better save your words for a ghost." How could she believe such words? What a joke. Even if she believed them, it wouldn't be easy to take back the things in her hands. Furthermore, these people were obviously trying to kill her. It was already good enough that she didn't use underhanded methods on them. A group of heretic cultivators who specialized in stealing other people's treasures in this area stopped when they heard the sound echoing in the forest. They looked around. "There's movement. Check where it's coming from," the leader said and signaled his subordinates to check. Because the sound echoed in the forest, they could only vaguely hear it and couldn't confirm where it was coming from. "Yes. the heretic cultivators below responded. They quickly ran 10 meters away and lay on the ground in all 4 directions to listen for movement. The sound on the ground was much clearer than the sound in the forest. Not long after, a few of them quickly returned and reported, "Leader, there are people running towards here from the southwest. They should be chasing after us to steal our treasures, but we only heard a few footsteps. Only a few people." The evil cultivator leader's eyes flashed with greed. "Then we'll wait for them halfway. Once we kill them, we'll share the treasures with our brothers." "All right." Hearing that, more than 30 evil cultivators responded excitedly. Under the lead of their leader, they walked in that direction, intending to surround that person. Not far from here, the nascent soul cultivator had been chasing after Fingzhou for half a day, but he still hadn't caught up to him. The anger in his heart was about to explode, and his killing intent and nascent soul aura filled the air. He couldn't wait to wring the neck of the red-robed brat in front of him. The most hateful thing was that he, a nascent soul cultivator, couldn't even catch up to a red-robed kid. Behind them, the 3 peak Jin Dan stage cultivators were the same. Their expressions were filled with anger and killing intent. The 3 of them had to chase after the thin middle-aged man because the middle-aged man was an alchemist. He could refine pills, but his speed and fighting skills were lacking. Chapter 1106. Fingzhou, who was in front of her, did not respond to the person behind her. Instead, she narrowed her eyes and stared at the group of evil cultivators who were waiting for her with swords in their hands. "Damn! What kind of luck am I in?" She widened her eyes. When she saw the evil cultivators waiting for her, she could not help but feel bloodthirsty. She clearly did not want to provoke others, but these people just had to provoke her. Did they really think that she was easy to bully? When she thought of the people behind her and then looked at the people in front of her, her thoughts raced. She glanced at the people in front of her and a dark light flickered in her eyes. "Help! They're robbing me! Help!" She screamed in horror and ran towards the evil cultivators. Occasionally, she would turn around and look at the few cultivators behind her in panic. When the evil cultivators heard Fingzhou's words, their gazes naturally fell on the few cultivators behind her. They saw that one of them was a nascent soul cultivator, 3 of them were golden core cultivators, and one of them was being supported by the other 3. He seemed to have a weak physique. Seeing these people, the evil cultivators sneered. "Take them down." With that, everyone rushed forward. "Stop him! That brat stole our Chinquan bags." The golden core cultivator at the back shouted angrily. However, when he saw that those people were evil cultivators, his expression changed. "Oh no! They're evil cultivators. Let's go." The skinny middle-aged man who was being supported by a few people shouted. He grabbed one of the golden core cultivators and asked him to take him away immediately. "Let's go. We don't want our Chinquan bags anymore. We can't let them fall into the hands of evil cultivators." Just as the golden core cultivator was about to take him away, he saw a sudden change. The red figure who was moving at a strange pace actually dared to pass by the evil cultivators. After circling around them, he took their Chinquan bags and continued to grow. This scene not only stunned the few of them, but also stunned the evil cultivators who were charging forward and waving their swords. They froze in mid-air for a long time until they lowered their heads and realized that the Chinquan bags containing treasures at their waists were all gone. "Damn it! That brat stole our Chinquan bags. Bastard! They actually dared to target us. He's courting death. Capture him. Kill him." For a moment, the enraged voices of the evil cultivators rang out. The crowd that was originally charging towards the few cultivators all stared at the red figure that swept past them and ran into the distance. They were all so angry that their eyes turned red as they chased after her. "Give us our Chinquan bags. Give us our treasures. Brat! Stop right there. The nascent soul cultivator and the 3 middle-aged golden core cultivators were all stunned. It took them a while to regain their senses. Seeing so many evil cultivators chasing after the red-robed young man, they finally laughed in schadenfreude. See? 2 of these evil cultivators are nascent soul cultivators, and he actually dares to have designs on them. He's clearly courting death. Let's chase again. Chapter 1107. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Rustling sounds could be faintly heard from the forest. This sound was not very loud, especially when it was covered by the sounds of cursing and running. It was even harder to hear. However, Fengjiu heard it immediately because she had been chased by the snakes for a day and a night. She was very familiar with the sound of the poisonous snakes hissing. She knew that it was a group of snakes the moment she heard it. However, she had clearly shaken them off with great difficulty. How did they appear nearby again? She was puzzled and looked around nervously. However, she did not see the Snake King's figure. Well, what would happen if she saw it? If she saw it, it must be around here. Did that mean that there were only some small snakes around? The Snake King was not here. She felt her scalp tingle when she thought of the thousands of poisonous snakes and the fact that one of them was a holy beast. Compared to the likes of ferocious beasts, this limp snake was really not likable. He didn't know how the snakes digested the pill, but they didn't feel any discomfort after eating it. Instead, they became much stronger. The Snake King's bloodthirsty and violent aura also became stronger. Not only did it have venom to attack, even the snake's skin was as hard as iron. Ordinary sharp blades couldn't hurt it at all. It wasn't easy to fight such a huge snake. However, her eyes flickered slightly as she glanced at the people behind her. The corners of her mouth curled into a strange smile. These people's combat power shouldn't be weak. She could use them to get rid of the Snake King, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. After making up her mind, she slowed down and used her divine sense to explore. Soon, she found a group of snakes some distance away. There were about 500 to 600 snakes in this group, but the Snake King was nowhere to be seen. She was puzzled and thought to herself, is the Snake King not in this area? Perhaps it went back to the place where she had moved the bottle spirit fruit tree. She thought to herself. Hearing the sounds behind her, she increased her speed and shook off the people behind her. The red figure in front of them was running further and further away. They were originally only a few dozen meters away, but now they were hundreds of meters away. Seeing this scene, the evil cultivators were secretly shocked. At the same time, they were indignant and angry. They sped up and chased after him. However, even if they increased their speed, they were still gradually pulling away from the red figure in front of them. When they saw the red figure disappear from their sight and enter the forest, they were shocked and furious. They were shocked that even with their cultivation and strength, they couldn't keep up with the youth in front of them. They were angry that their chinkuan bags had been snatched away by the red-clothed youth. Moreover, the treasures they had collected were all in the chinkuan bags. Damn it! He's gone. An evil cultivator cursed. He stopped running and looked around, but he didn't see the young man in red. He can't have gone far. He should be in this area. Let's search. Find him, skin him, and pull out his tendons. The evil cultivators were all gritting their teeth in anger. There were so many of them, but they actually let a brat escape right under their noses. How despicable. And just as they said, Fengjiu didn't go far. Instead, he hid in a lush tree and watched those who were looking for him. He took the opportunity to rest and replenish his energy. Chapter 1108. She listened carefully and heard rustling sounds accompanied by hissing sounds. Moreover, there were so many of them. It wasn't just 1 or 2, but she was startled and released her divine perception. She saw that some of the ferocious beasts in the area were running for their lives into the depths of the forest. The leaves in the forest swayed without any wind, as if something was moving. She probed with her divine perception and couldn't help but open her mouth. It can't be. They really found me. Do they have a dog's nose? The forest was densely packed with snakes of various sizes and colors. Some were coiled around the branches while some were slithering on the ground. They all rushed towards her at the same time. Behind these small snakes, the Snake King she was familiar with seemed to have changed. She didn't know why, but there was a big bump on its head that was faintly glowing red. It was very frightening. What surprised her was that it had actually jumped from the initial stage of a sacred beast to the peak of a sacred beast. No wonder its body had more than doubled in size. She wasn't the only one who noticed the hissing sounds of the venomous snakes. Even the heretical cultivators below who were looking for her, as well as the cultivators who were unwilling to leave, noticed it. Those cultivators were behind the heretical cultivators, so they noticed it earlier than the heretical cultivators. When they saw the venomous snake suddenly surging out of the forest, their scalps couldn't help but tingle. The alchemist hurriedly took out realgar and scattered it in all directions. Unexpectedly, a portion of the snakes blocked it, but a portion of them didn't fear the realgar and continued to slither forward. As if enraged, the snakes let out hissing sounds one after another. They stared at the few of them with bloodthirsty eyes. Their bodies shrunk, and they suddenly jumped up. They opened their mouths and bit at the few of them. Ah! The alchemist jumped in fright and hurriedly hid behind the golden core cultivator. At this time, the golden core cultivator brandished his saber, but only saw that the snake was sent flying. His saber and sword could not cut it at all. His expression changed. This is an iron-silver snake. A metal-type venomous snake, invulnerable. Hiss. There's a huge snake behind us. Not good. Run. The golden core cultivator cried out in alarm and hurriedly brought the alchemist towards the evil cultivators. The nascent soul cultivator and the other two golden core cultivators didn't believe it. They stepped forward to block the attack and send out several fierce chi currents to attack the snakes. However, when they saw that their attacks really didn't have any killing power and the snakes were still rushing forward, their expressions changed greatly and they quickly rushed forward. Run! The evil cultivators laughed when they saw this. Coward! How could he be so scared of a few snakes? He's so useless that he's the best. However, as soon as they finished speaking, they saw the cultivators fly past them. They did not stop them, but stared at the snakes on the ground behind them. However, the more they looked, the more they felt that something was wrong. Not only were they on the ground, but they were also on the trees. Moreover, there were so many of them that it was enough to shock anyone. Damn it! Why are there so many snakes? As they cursed, they quickly turned around and ran forward. However, just as they turned around and ran forward, they saw the red figure appear in front of them and the other cultivators. Look! It's that brat! Catch him! Damn it! Chapter 1109. Fingzhou didn't turn back when she heard the loud noises behind her and the evil cultivators' curses. Instead, she raised her chi and flew away. She was so fast that she soon disappeared from their sight. The evil cultivators were so angry that they clenched their teeth and roared angrily. Stinking brat! Don't run if you have the guts. However, Fingzhou didn't want to fight when she remembered that the giant snake had become stronger and had a red bump on its head. She immediately shook off the people behind her and the poisonous snakes. Then, she withdrew her chi and arrived at a mountain wall. Her eyes lit up when she saw the spiritual herb growing on the mountain wall. It was the spiritual herb that she was looking for. After finding it, she planned to return to her cave to refine pills. There was a barrier there, so even if the snakes wanted to find her, they might not be able to. Moreover, Duan Yi and the others were there, so she was a little worried. Although Tun Yun was there to look after them, she felt more at ease if she went to their side. At least, if anything happened, they could deal with it immediately. She didn't know if it was because of the different areas, but she felt that there was no restriction on flying in the sky. However, it was easy to be exposed in the sky. Moreover, there were many trees in the forest, so very few people used flying. She originally thought that this area was the same as the previous ones, where flying was prohibited. However, after avoiding the poisonous snakes and evil cultivators, her sharp senses sensed that this area was different from the previous ones. Since there was no restriction on flying, she could use a flying magic tool. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to climb up the mountain wall. After making up her mind, she threw out the flying feather and lightly jumped on it. She sat on the flying feather and arrived at the mountain wall. She picked the spiritual herb growing on the mountain wall and stored it in her space. At this moment, she didn't know that she had escaped. However, the evil cultivators and the few cultivators were chased by the poisonous snakes and had nowhere to run. Especially where they were, many evil cultivators had died in the battle. As for the few gold core and nascent soul cultivators, they were more cautious. When the snakes besieged the evil cultivators, they directly chopped down the trees, creating a hole in the forest that was covered by the trees. They quickly took a leap, and with the mentality of going all out, they wanted to fly up on their flying swords and avoid the poisonous snakes on the ground. However, they didn't expect to find out that there was no restriction on flying in this area after they came up. Quickly use your flying swords and leave the ground. When the leader of the evil cultivators saw that the few people were escaping on their flying swords, he immediately summoned his flying sword and followed them to escape from the encirclement on the ground. However, in their fear and under the siege of the snakes, some of the evil cultivators on the ground were still thinking that they couldn't fly and had nowhere to run. They completely didn't realize that they could also use their flying swords in this area. That's right, the forest in this area was so dense that they couldn't see the sky. In addition, they couldn't fly in the area when they entered. Therefore, they all thought that they couldn't fly in this area. When danger approached, some people had the mentality to give it a try, while others panicked and lost their minds. They just kept running forward, trying to get rid of the danger behind them. Chapter 11:10. How can there be a giant beast at the peak of the holy beast realm? They knew that there were ferocious beasts in the Death Mountain range, but this was not the deepest part of the Death Mountain range. It could only be considered the outer ring. Even if a holy beast appeared in this place, it would be impossible for a peak holy beast to appear. However, at this moment, the pressure emitted by the giant snake below was the aura of a peak holy beast. They understood. No wonder there were so many poisonous snakes in the surroundings. If a peak holy beast was a snake, not to mention that this was only the outer ring, even if it entered the inner ring, this snake could become the king of snakes. Just as they stopped in mid-air and looked at the giant snake below in shock, the giant snake actually raised its head and swept its vicious and bloodthirsty snake eyes across them. After sizing them up, it retracted its eyes, as if it was looking for something. It ignored them and continued to go deeper into the forest. Seeing this, the people in mid-air let out a sigh of relief and watched the giant snake go away. The snake's tail was still moving and slapping the ground from time to time, as if it was saying, "I'm coming." They were shocked and puzzled at the same time. What was this snake looking for? As for Fingzhou, in order to avoid the snakes on the ground, she was sitting on the flying feather and heading back. At the same time, she was paying attention to the ground to see if the giant snake appeared. Until now, she still did not understand why the snake did not explode and die after eating her pill. Instead, it seemed to have advanced. And had it mutated? Then why was there a big red bump on its head? Just as she was thinking about this, suddenly, with a whoosh, a murderous intense shot from the ground towards her in midair. She came back to her senses and dodged the hidden weapon that shot towards her at the same time. Her sharp eyes looked down. More than 10 rogue cultivators flew up on their swords and surrounded her. They all stared at her with evil intentions. To be exact, they were staring at the flying feather that she was sitting on. 7-colored flowing glass feather. Kid, where did you get it? A rogue cultivator stared at Fengjiu and asked. His eyes were obviously full of greed. Fengjiu glanced at them. So what if I got it from somewhere? You want to steal it? Do you have the ability? 13 people, 10 of whom were Foundation Establishment cultivators and 3 of whom were Golden Core cultivators. Did they really think they could snatch something from her with such a lineup? However, in this damned place, one would encounter a beast every 3 steps, and one would encounter a robbery every 10 steps. This was too much of a scam. She was planning to avoid those snakes and return to the cave to refine pills, but she actually encountered someone who had designs on her. She, who had been sitting down, stood up with her hands on the feather. Her fluttering red clothes fluttered in the wind, and her handsome face seemed to be covered with lang shuang, becoming cold and fierce. I'm in a bad mood right now. Since you've come to provoke me, don't blame me for being impolite. Her cold voice was accompanied by traces of chilliness, and a cold murderous aura spread out from her body. Her aura changed, and she was like a completely different person from her previous lazy self. Seeing the red-clothed young man become fierce and cold in an instant, and the killing intent and pressure on his body was terrifying, the hearts of the dozen people couldn't help but tremble, and they were somewhat stunned and hesitant. How could a person suddenly become like a god of death? The aura and killing intent on this young man's body caused them to be involuntarily shocked. Were they right to provoke him? Chapter 11:11. Just as they were feeling shocked, the red-clothed youth in the middle moved his hand. A red ribbon flew out from his waist and wrapped around his hand. The other end of the ribbon flew towards them, striking the neck of one of the Foundation Establishment cultivators at a speed that was too fast for them to react. Whoosh! There were no screams or cries of alarm. The red ribbon, infused with spiritual power, instantly became a lethal weapon as it sliced through the Foundation Establishment cultivator's neck. Blood spurted out and the red ribbon retracted and attacked another person. The Foundation Establishment cultivator whose throat had been sliced lost his life and fell from the sky. Hiss! When the people around saw this scene, they finally recovered from their shock and quickly dodged. However, those who dodged too slowly only saw the red silk streaking past their eyes. When they wanted to dodge, they felt a powerful pressure coming from the red silk, enveloping them. The terrifying pressure stunned them, making it impossible for them to dodge. They could only watch as the killing intent approached them. Ah! A Foundation Establishment cultivator at the back cried out in alarm. Seeing people die one after another under the red ribbon, the Foundation Establishment cultivator at the back turned around in shock and wanted to escape. While the red-clothed youth was dealing with the people in front of him, he was the first to turn around and escape. Come back! The 3 gold core cultivators recovered from their shock. When they saw that someone was trying to flee, they roared in anger. However, even as they roared, the red silk wrapped around the fleeing Foundation Establishment cultivator's leg and dragged him back. No, no. Let me go. I don't want to die. A panicked voice begged for mercy. The leg that was wrapped around by the red ribbon looked as if the Grim Reaper had grabbed his hand and dragged him to hell. He was so frightened that he struggled. He turned around and swung his sword at the red ribbon, wanting to cut it. Unexpectedly, when his sword slashed at the red ribbon, it was blocked by a wave of spiritual power. Seeing this, how could he not know that the red ribbon was an extraordinary magic treasure? Kill him. If he doesn't die, then we will. The 3 golden core cultivators shouted. Since they couldn't retreat, they could only use all their strength to kill the red-clothed youth. Otherwise, none of them would survive. Initially, the Foundation Establishment cultivators were still fearful and wanted to escape. However, after hearing the words of the 3 golden core cultivators and seeing that they could not escape, they understood that they could only fight. Hence, they gritted their teeth and charged forward with their swords. Since they couldn't escape, they had to fight for their lives. Fighting spirit rose, killing intent appeared. The remaining 10 people surrounded Fingzhou, intending to kill him. However, it was fine if Fingzhou didn't make a move, it was fine if she didn't have any killing intent, but once she did, how could these people be her match? In the air, a fierce murderous intent whizzed out along with the airflow. A red figure stood on the rainbow glass feather and faced the rogue cultivators head-on. The spiritual energy fluctuations in the air fluctuated along with the surging battle intent and murderous intent. The air seemed to have solidified slightly. The golden core cultivators were fighting with all their strength, causing the foundation establishment cultivators to be unable to withstand the pressure. Their faces turned pale, and the blood in their bodies surged chaotically. Pooh! One of the foundation establishment cultivators couldn't hold on any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body staggered on the flying sword and fell down. Chapter 11-12. Because they were in mid-air and at a high altitude, they could naturally be seen by some cultivators in the forest. When they saw the rogue cultivators surrounding the red-robed youth, they thought that the red-robed youth was dead for sure. Who would have thought? More than 10 people fell to their deaths one by one. Even the remaining 3 golden core cultivators were covered in wounds. Their gray robes were stained with blood. Even though they were still some distance away, they could clearly see the blood-red scene. In just a few breaths of time, one of the 3 golden core cultivators was struck. He let out a muffled groan as he retreated. Then, he was struck by the red silk and slammed into the ground. There was a loud rumble that could be heard by all of the people on their side. Seeing this scene, they could not help but secretly rejoice that they did not become greedy because of this. Otherwise, they would have ended up like those rogue cultivators. When they saw the red-robed youth standing in mid-air and sweeping his gaze around after killing the remaining 2 golden core cultivators, the cultivators below could not help but feel their scalps go numb. Even some of the clans with nascent soul cultivators were warned not to provoke this person. In the following area, Fingzhou did not encounter any more troublemakers. Even the beasts automatically avoided her when they saw her. Because she had released a trace of ancient coercion, the ferocious beasts below naturally did not dare to approach her. However, when she encountered the Snake King had probably gone mad because she had snatched the spirit fruit tree. It actually chased after her without any regard for anything else. Even though she had the ancient aura on her, it still chased after her in a frenzy. When she thought of the Snake King, she thought of the spirit fruit tree. She wondered what the use of those spirit fruits were. At the same time, Duan Yi and the other 3 had split into 2 groups and were training in the forest near the boundary. Although they were only in the foundation establishment stage, their combat power was not weak. In addition, the 2 of them had joined forces to fight. In these 2 days, they had collected quite a number of beast crystals. However, the task that Fingzhou had given them was to collect no less than 100 beast crystals in 10 days. However, they had only collected a dozen beast crystals in 2 days. It would be difficult to collect more than 100 beast crystals in 10 days. After killing a few ferocious beasts, Song Ming and Ning Lang were panting in exhaustion. They leaned against a tree and panted. What should we do? This wasn't enough. We've only gotten a dozen beast crystals in 2 days. Even if we split them evenly, each of them won't even get 10. Ning Lang said with a bitter frown. Song Ming thought for a while and said, those beast crystals won't be enough for us. How about this? Is that so? Would it work? There are only 2 of us, and we aren't that strong, Ning Lang said, feeling a little unsure. Why not? There are a lot of things we need to snatch, we just need to snatch from those cultivators who are alone, those people will definitely have beast crystals on them. But Fengjiu said that we can get beast crystals from the beasts to increase our fighting strength. If we rob them, it won't work, right? He was a little hesitant. His family was rich and he had never robbed anyone before. Song Ming's large hand clapped him on the shoulder, and he said, even if you want to snatch, you still have to fight. Do you think you don't have to fight just because you snatched it? Some of those cultivators are stronger than us. If we rob those rogue cultivators or evil cultivators, we will definitely get more beast crystals. Moreover, we might even get other treasures. Don't you want to? Chapter 11:13. Just as he expected, Ning Lang's heart skipped a beat. After thinking for a while, he nodded, all right. I agree. Let's do it right away. However, we still need to plan how to rob them. Other than using our hands, we can also use our brains. All right then. Tell me, how should we do it? Song Ming looked at him and asked. Of course, we have to see who we're robbing. Apart from that, since we're robbing them, I think the two of us should put on some disguises. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble if we're recognized. As he spoke, he took out things from his space and said, I have a lot of things here and some old clothes. Let's change into them later. There's also a fake beard, a ghost mask, and a black cloak. Where did you get these things? Song Ming looked at him strangely. I used them to prank people in the past. I've been keeping them. Here, this is for you. Once you're done, we'll go look for our target. However, I think it's better not to go too far away. Otherwise, it'll be too dangerous. Hearing this, Song Ming smiled. Come on, we haven't even done anything yet and you're already worried. All right. We don't need the beard. Change into the clothes, put on the black cloak, and put on the ghost mask. Duan Yi and the others won't be able to recognize us in this disguise. As they spoke, the two of them quickly changed their clothes and put on their disguises. Only then did they head into the forest to look for targets to rob. Tun Yun stood on a tree. The lush leaves covered its snow-white body. It watched the two of them head into the forest. After pausing for a moment, it changed its direction and headed in the direction of Duan Yi and Luo Fei. When it found Duan Yi and Luo Fei, it squatted not far away and watched. It saw that they were fighting with a few evil cultivators in the forest. Duan Ye's fighting strength was one of the best among them, and Luo Fei had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. The two of them worked together, and it didn't take long for them to eliminate the evil cultivators. Before they left, they burned the corpses with fire and destroyed the corpses. It followed behind them and watched as they walked to a place in front of them. After making sure that there was no one around, they took out their spoils of war and distributed them while counting. Wow! These heretic practitioners have quite a lot of things. You see, we got over 200 beast crystals from them. It can be seen that they robbed a lot of people. Luo Fei's face was full of excitement as he said, at least 110 days. I think Ning Lang and the others definitely won't have as many as we do. How about this? At that time, we will see how much they take out. We just need to take out a little more than them. Anyway, as long as we win against them, their beast crystals will be ours. As for the rest, we will keep it for next time. This way, we can win against them every time. Hearing this, Duan Yi glanced at him. How do you know they don't have as many beast crystals as we do? Perhaps they have quite a few as well. How is that possible? I'm sure the two of them didn't find us. Luo Fei said confidently, look, it's only been 2 days and we've already gathered so many. Unless they have the same thoughts as us, they won't be able to catch up to us just by killing the beasts. Chapter 11:14. In the evening, when Tun Yun saw its master flying across the sky on the rainbow glass feather, it wagged its tail in joy. Its master had returned. Fengjiu returned to the barrier on the flying feather. Seeing that there was no one inside, he returned to his abode to rest. He planned to refine pills the next day after resting. However, just as he was about to rest, he saw Tun-Yun run in. "Master! Why are you back? Didn't I ask you to follow them?" Fengzhou asked, looking at Tun-Yun who had run in. "I saw that you were back, so I came back to report to you about their movements over the past 2 days." As Tun-Yun spoke, he jumped to her side and reported everything that had happened in the past 2 days to her. After a long while, Fengzhou laughed after listening to Tun-Yun's report. "It's only been 2 days. We don't know who's going to win yet. Although Ning Lang and Song Ming are no match for Luo Fei in terms of scheming, they have their own strengths. As long as we use them well and make use of their strengths, I believe that the outcome will be suspenseful. Alright, continue to keep an eye on them. As long as there's no danger to your life, you don't have to appear to help. If you run into something that even you can't solve, then come back to me." She gestured for it to leave. Hearing this, Tun-Yun responded and left the barrier, running towards Ning Lang and the others. Its master had used medicine on both teams. It only needed to follow the smell of the medicine to find them. As for the smell of the medicine, only it and its master could smell it. They didn't even know that its master had done something to them. Just as Fengzhou had expected, Ning Lang and Song Ming had gained a lot over the next few days. Apart from killing ferocious beasts, they also attacked evil cultivators and rogue cultivators in the forest. They killed evil cultivators when they encountered them. As for rogue cultivators, they only took their belongings and did not take their lives. The 10 days passed by quickly. On the morning of the 10th day, the 4 exhausted people dragged their weary feet back to the barrier. As soon as they entered, they collapsed on the ground to rest. Inside the barrier, they could rest at ease without worrying about danger. But outside the barrier, they couldn't. Even if the surroundings didn't seem to be dangerous, they still didn't dare to rest without any precaution. Tun-Yun followed them in after they returned. It glanced at the 4 people lying on the ground before entering the cave to inform Fengzhou. Not long after, Fengzhou, dressed in red, walked out of the cave. When he saw the appearance of the 4 people, he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. "You're all back. Since you're back, take out what you've obtained in the past 10 days. Hearing this, the 4 people on the ground leaped up while quickly calculating in their hearts. They glanced at each other and said in unison, "You guys take it first." Fengzhou glanced at them and said, "Take your own things and turn around to count. Also, you are not allowed to take out anything else after the comparison, even if you have more." The meaning was very simple. You can take out as much as you want. However, once you take out something, even if it's less than the other party, you can't take it out again if you still have space. Therefore, this was a test for them. Do they want to take out everything and win for sure? Or do they want to save some for later? Chapter 11:15. We have 285 crystals in total. The 2 of us will form a team, so we won't be separated. As Luo Fei spoke, there was a pile of colorful beast crystals in front of the 2 of them. Some of these beast crystals were killed by them, while some were stolen from the heretical cultivators. In any case, they were the ones who got them back. Of course, they didn't only get these beast crystals this time. However, after some discussion, they felt that this amount of beast crystals was enough. They didn't believe that Ning Lang and the others could take out more beast crystals than them in just 10 days. But very quickly, when they saw Ning Lang proudly raise his chin and smile at them, the 2 of them suddenly had a bad feeling. Could it be that the 2 of them really had more beast crystals than them? We have 498 beast crystals. Among them, the rank 9 beast crystals are. Ning Lang reported the number. Not only did he report the number, but he also reported the attributes of the beast crystals, as well as their grades. When Fengzhou heard this, the smile on his face deepened. He was indeed an expert at making money. He was so meticulous that he could even distinguish the grades and attributes of the beast crystals. Moreover, from the number he reported, it was obvious that the two of them didn't hold back. On the contrary, they were determined to win. In the end, Ning Lang said, although we said that we'd split into our own teams, we thought about it and realized that we've already split into 2 teams. Therefore, we'll decide who wins and who loses in this team. What he meant was that no matter if they won or lost, since they were in the same team, they were willing to share the burden and share. Seeing this, Fengjiu secretly nodded. After glancing at the two of them, he looked at the dumbfounded Luo Fei and the pursed lips of Duan Yi and smiled, "Hand over half of your 285 beast crystals to me. The rest will go to Ning Lang and Song Ming." Duan Yi didn't say anything. After all, Ning Lang and the rest did have a lot more than them. However, if they took out the beast crystals from the space, they could compete with them. But even if they wanted to take them out now, it was already too late. "How did you get so many?" Luo Fei asked in disbelief. He couldn't understand the origin of these beast crystals. "Apart from some that we killed, we also targeted a group of evil cultivators. There were more than 20 of them. We lured them out one by one and killed them one by one. Their belongings naturally became ours," Ning Lang said proudly. He took advantage of the greed of those evil practitioners and used treasures to bait them. Although they still fought in the end, this method was much more convenient and could reduce the danger. They wouldn't kill the innocent. As for the evil practitioners, they only killed them. As for the rogue practitioners who didn't provoke them, they just found an opportunity to snatch their Qinquan bags and leave. "Then why did you take all these out? I thought we were going to win for sure," Luo Fei said. Even now, he still couldn't figure out how he had lost to them and who knew. However, he did not know that he had lost to Ning Lang and Song Ming because he had thought too far ahead. Chapter 11:16. Both parties handed over half of their beast crystals to Fengjiu. After Fengjiu accepted them, her gaze swept past Song Ming and Ning Lang before landing on Duan Yi and Luo Fei. She revealed a strange smile and said slowly, "Now, it's time for the punishment." When the 4 of them heard this, Ning Lang and Song Ming looked at each other with anticipation. They really wanted to know how Fengjiu would punish the loser. This was a change from a single person to a team. In other words, what originally only needed one person to suffer had now become a situation where 2 people had to suffer together. The winning party was not afraid, but the losing party, Duan Yi and Luo Fei, felt their scalps go numb. How would they be punished if they lost? Would they be forced to do manual labor? Or something else? Seeing the smile on Fengjiu's face, the 2 of them felt uneasy and had a bad premonition. At this moment, Fengjiu curled her lips and smiled. She took out a rectangular box from her space and handed it to them, saying, "Eat everything in here. This is your punishment." What? Just eating? The 2 of them were dumbfounded. What kind of punishment was eating? However, the bad premonition became even stronger. With Fengjiu's methods, why would she give them something good to eat after they lost? "Hurry up and open the box. Let's see what's inside," Ning Lang urged from the side with a curious face. Actually, he also felt that it couldn't be anything good. Since it wasn't good, what could it be? "Take it." Fengjiu handed it over and smiled, saying, "I went out to find this for you before the sun rose this morning." The 2 of them accepted it helplessly. When they opened it, they were so shocked that they almost dropped it on the ground. Worm. Even Song Ming and Ning Lang, who were at the side, were shocked. Their eyes widened as they stared at the wriggling white worm the size of a finger inside the box. Can this thing be eaten? It's too disgusting. The 2 of them couldn't help but look at Duan Yi and Luo Fei sympathetically. They felt that if they could really eat this thing, their psychological endurance would be too strong. The two of them felt nauseous just by looking at the big white worm wriggling inside. One had to know that they were all born into aristocratic families. Which of their meals were not filled with delicacies? Let them eat this. It was too terrifying. Eat. Don't worry, it's not poisonous. On the contrary, this kind of big white worm is quite nutritious. She chuckled. The loser has to be punished. I said it before. Come. You don't have to be polite. We won't fight with you. Can this be eaten? I've never seen such a disgusting thing in my entire life. Luo Fei's face turned pale. He couldn't help but take a step back, his face full of resistance. Don't worry, it can be eaten. It's just that it doesn't look very good. Come, I'll teach you how to eat it. She took a step forward and gestured, picking up a big white worm in her hand. Chop off its head and tail. Just eat the small section in the middle. Come, open your mouth and taste it. She kindly brought the juicy section of the big white worm to Luo Fei's mouth and gestured for him to open his mouth. Luo Fei's face was dejected. He stared at the big white worm that was dripping with milky white juice, his heart filled with regret.